To tell you the truth, I had to pick 3 subjects that were classified as teaching subjects, so I would get a studentship that would pay my fees so I could get to university, because I had no money and came from a country area. I ended up not really liking the subjects I had to choose. I pulled out of the studentship, and after about 6 months I decided to go back to university. I shut my eyes, I stuck a pin in the calendar, in the university calendar, and it happened to land on social anthropology. I fell in love with it and took it through to a postgrad level. The skills people need to be employed in government departments really do depend on the position that they're actually applying for. For example, policy analysis, we're looking at critical thinking, the ability to distill a whole lot of information down into something like 4 pages and to lead the reader towards a conclusion that fits with their experience. Sometimes I think people come out of university and expect to go onto the middle rung of the ladder. But it's like any first job, there's a whole culture to learn, there's a whole skill set to learn. And if you just think that the plumber, the electrician, the panel beater, not only does some theory training, they also do a lot of practical. It's no different for a social scientist. It may take 5, 10, 15 years post-university to learn how to write between the lines as well as to read between them. One of the big skills that is critically important in the workplace is being able to manage your own time, change priorities, and get a project from woe to go in the time scale you agreed to do it in. Now, partly the discipline of writing essays and assignments, they're an awful pain at the time. You learn about panic and deadlines. You can't get an exemption in the government system in the same way as you can persuade your lecturer. A policy analyst is basically a job where you have to read a lot of bits of paper, get the essence out of it, maybe down to a page of bullet points, construct a couple of pages of paragraph about it in a way that communicates it to somebody who has not read that material. Working as an individual is really rare. While you may do particular tasks on your own, they'll be part of a project, they'll be a contribution towards something. Most people are organised into teams with a manager. There is collegial support, there is on-the-job mentoring, but if you write something, that doesn't automatically mean that's the version that will go to the higher-ups. It will pass through a number of hands, and as it passes through those hands, the feedback is a real learning experience. It may feel like your work's not being valued, but you will learn an awful lot through that process. Well, why would you expect to have a lot of autonomy when you're being paid to do a job for priorities that are associated with the money supply? It's not something where people as of right can have a nice living for doing their own priorities. Quantitative and qualitative methodology skills are really a distinction that is much more meaningful in a university context than a government context. In a government context, we're looking at an issue or a problem. What do we need to do to fix this issue? How do we stop these people falling over the edge? Whatever skills are necessary to provide the information, to provide some recommendations and back them up, are what you use. You don't sit there thinking, oh, that's qualitative, I can't use that, or that's quantitative. It's not about methodology, it's not about discipline, it's about using the range of stuff that will be useful. Basically, the skills that I learned in social anthropology I didn't fully appreciate at the time. I was too young. But I learned how to relate to a whole range of people from a lot of different backgrounds and to actually treat them with respect, even if I thought they were raging idiots and didn't agree with them, but to basically have respect in the interactions. I first applied that as a bus driver in Wellington City for 2 years, taking people on sightseeing tours and having learnt to minutely observe behaviour, watching them in the rear vision mirror, seeing how they responded to my patter and laughed at my jokes, and if they didn't, I knew I wouldn't get any tips, so I would alter my story. After bus driving, I spent 10 years working in urban transport policy and transport economics. That's when I realised that the knowledge I had begun to acquire about power dynamics in groups gave me an edge over the disciplines of engineering and economic formulas where people didn't know about human being dynamics. It meant that processes involving people and relationships were the kinds of things I was given to do because I could make them work and nobody wrote and complained to the minister or the chief executive.